person. She might be traded because she was enslaved, and so she decided to escape, and she knew that she would not, that she might not stay around there because she wouldn't get much money because they had been so abusive to her. And so she knew she had to escape if she ever wanted to see her people again, her family again. And so she did so, and she used the Underground Railroad, which we talked about last week, so throw up that. And that's houses that go from one house to another house. They had all those symbols, like people would pull their ear to tell an enslaved person who was escaping that they would be safe with them. And there were so many other signs. So she used the Underground Railroad, and she escaped the enslavement, but she then went to Canada and she took a nap and she didn't do anything else?
No.
No. She was a really amazing person. So I want to read a couple of quotes from you. First of all, her real name was Aramintia, and she was called Minty. So can you throw up that, Aramintia? And she was born probably around 1820 to 1825. So I think that we should call her Minty maybe. So she fled to Philadelphia, and her mission was to rescue as many of her family members as she possibly could. So in December of 1850, she received a notice, she received a message that her niece, Keziah, I love that name, so throw that up. Keziah was going to be sold along with her 2 young children. And Keziah's husband was a free black man named John Bowley, so throw him up. And he made a winning bid for his wife at the auction in Baltimore. And then Harriet helped the entire family make the journey to Philadelphia. And that was one of her first trips. On her very first trip, she made it all the way 90 miles to Philadelphia. And so I love this quote. Throw up this quote, but hold it up there, okay? When I found I had crossed that line, meaning to freedom, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields. I felt like I was in heaven. Wow, think about that. That's what a difference it made that those abolitionists helped her and that she was able to get to freedom. It was so powerful. So like I said, she went back to help her niece and his wife and their 2 children. But they declined to make the journey. They decided to stay in Maryland because they felt safe in Maryland since he had bought their freedom, and they felt like they would be safe. But she started watching what was happening. So remember, we were talking about the Compromise of 1820, then the Compromise of 1850, and it was getting more and more where enslaved people or free people were getting less rights. And so she was watching that. And she said that in 1850, with the passage of the Fugitive Slave Law, they could no longer, people who were enslaved, who got away, like Harriet Tubman, could no longer just go to a northern state and be safe. Now, put that up, 1850, the Fugitive Slave Law. With the Fugitive Slave Law, people from the South could go into the northern states, recapture enslaved people, and bring them back. It was a horrible thing. So Harriet Tubman realized that she had to help people get all the way to Canada. So put up a map going up to Canada. So in December of 1851, Tubman guided a group of 11 fugitives, and they were called fugitives, but they were just people who wanted to not be enslaved. So I wouldn't call them fugitives. I would call them brave people. Northward, and there's evidence to suggest that she stopped at the home of Frederick Douglass, and we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. So throw Frederick Douglass. And he was the author of the North Star, which was a newspaper for abolitionists. She also met with John Brown in April 1858. So throw him up. And he called her General Tubman because of all of her help. Harriet Tubman remained active during the Civil War, so throughout the Civil War, working in the Union Army as a nurse and a cook. Now, we're going to learn more about the nurses and cooks in the Union Army, but they were called the Angels of the Battlefield. So throw up Angels of the Battlefield. And she was the first woman to lead an expedition during the Civil War. So definitely throw that up. And she guided the Champakee River Raid, which liberated more than 700 enslaved people in South Carolina. Definitely put that one up. She was a Union spy. And later in her life, you would think she'd be really wealthy, right? Because she had done so much. You'd think that people would just give her tons of money. But actually, she just kept giving away. Every time people would give her things, she would give it away because she was so grateful for the freedom and for everything that had happened that she was constantly giving to others. And so she died fairly much in poverty. So another person that we're going to learn about was Senator William Seward, and he actually goes way back to our earliest Eden Hope cards, our week 1, because he was the one who helped purchase Alaska. So Harriet Tubman could be kind of linked to Alaska in a way, and William Seward. So that's a really cool link. So throw him up there. And so let's synopsize Harriet Tubman. So she had been born into slavery. She was cruelly treated. So you can put those up there. That she escaped to Philadelphia. Now, remember William Penn, Quaker, Philadelphia. Remember all of that from our other cards? And that when the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 was enacted, she realized she had to get people all the way to Canada, and she was responsible for freeing hundreds and hundreds of slaves. And she helped out in the Civil War, and then even when she was older, she continued to give to others. So she's a really important person for us to remember. So that's Harriet Tubman. Card for today is the California Gold Rush. So throw up a map of the United States, please. Okay, so most people in the United States at this time in 1849, so I'm going to put that up right there, 1849, lived on the eastern part of the United States. So put a population map on 1849. All right, so they lived on the eastern side of the United States, and so we had people going across to the whole other part of the United States, all the way to the Pacific Ocean, but not many. There were not many people living in California. But then in 1849, a man named John Marshall was working at the mill of John Sutter, who founded the city of Sacramento, so throw that up, and he found
gold.
Gold. Everyone say, gold. Gold. He found gold in them hills. And this is up northern California. So throw a map where it was in northern California, near the mountains. And when they found it, when they started in 1849, the population of California was 100,000. Oops, sorry. The population was 20,000, and in just the end of the next year, it was 100,000. So a lot of people came. But it wasn't even that many who came at first for all the gold, because the people were worried that it wasn't that much gold, or maybe they weren't sure, things like that. But also they had lots of hucksters. Do you know what a huckster is?
It's someone who comes and it's like, hey, buy this.
Right, so let's be a huckster. So they would go from town to town to sell things, but they would go, come on up, and they'd have a wagon there, and it would probably be all glittery, and come on up, let me tell you about the best thing I'm going to sell you today. And so a group of people would go, and little girl, you're so beautiful. I bet you want gold, and I've got this tonic, and you can rub this tonic all over your body, and then you can go to a mountain in California and you can roll down it, and when you get up, your body will be covered in enough gold to last you the rest of your life.
I'm okay.
Really? Yeah. You don't want to, I didn't convince you?
No.
Oh, goodness gracious.
You're a very bad person. You need to be louder. And you need to be like, why would someone want to do that?
Yeah.
It'd be painful. Like,
It'd be painful. I
Yeah,
mean,
'cause-
really, what if you hit something hard? A
yeah,
thorn
and
bush.
the gold would cut you. Because some.
Would it?
Yeah, because some of
Okay,
it's sharp.
so nevertheless, so then the President of the United States announced, so throw a picture of him up. The President of the United States announced that the rumors about gold in California were real, and oh my goodness. All of a sudden, you had people leaving everything and basically running to California to get gold. So you not only had people from the United States, but you had people from Bolivia, from South America, from China. They were coming from everywhere to get gold. And a lot of them were able to get quite a bit of gold. They were mining it and panning it. So show a picture of panning for gold. A lot of them were able to get quite a bit of gold. But guess who made the most amount of money?
The guy who was selling it.
The men who were selling things like pans, so throw these up, pans and shovels and tents and jeans. Show them your jeans.
Mine are ripped.
That's okay. So Levi Strauss was a merchant there, and he realized that people did not have clothes that were hardy enough to really mine for gold in these places. And so he took tent canvas and he cut them, and he made the first Levi's out of them, or jeans.
I like jeans.
Yeah, I do too. So in the Compromise of 1850, Henry Clay, remember him? He's
The great pacifier.
the great pacifier. His second compromise, so we had his first in 1820 and now his second in 1850, he proposed that California enter the Union as a free state. So just a year after discovering gold, all of a sudden California looked really good to those people in Washington, and they wanted to admit it as a free state. So that's why the San Francisco 49ers are called the 49ers, because the gold rush was in 1849.
49.
And that's why their colors are gold. And that's where you get the songs, Oh My Darling Clementine. So we'll play that for you. And a lot of other really cool songs. And we're going to do those in ukulele this week. So that is it for our timeline cards. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye. Thank you.